All right. This is Asa from English AP English Language, first period. So this is going to be my journal conference video. This is based on the Professor and the Madman and what I learned about myself through the reading. So I'm gonna start with. Um, so I first noticed on my very first points here is that I immediately started making claims right away, like not even like thinking about it, just making claims right away, which is a much different start than I made in my past. In my past journal, like I always was like I only made a couple claims and I like made it overarching, and I noted I made some claims right away. Here I say like immediate, like right after off the bat, the book starts with a definition, so I immediately say, as you can see here, um, I say, yeah, will there be definitions throughout the whole book? I'm just kind of like wondering, what, like if there will be, I'm immediately claiming like, okay, so maybe there will be claims throughout the whole book, and this is different because, and I state this here, and this is different because after reading Long Day's Journey into Night and like seeing how much I missed by not making claims, I've kind of switched up my idea a lot. So yeah, um, yeah, um, and then um, so then I also noticed that that I start off the book analyzing the text a lot, like right away, like really down and gritty about it. And I think this is coming from again like the end of A Long Day's Journey. I wanted to think more and more about like what like character development and what this is going to mean for the rest of the story. So I immediately say, this takes in, yeah. So I immediately start by analyzing the setting right away, similar to Long Day's Journey, and I say this takes place in London, and it starts in a very dangerous area, and so yeah. So I start right. So I just point out that I start right off the bat analyzing this text very strongly right away. Then so then for the next part, I wrote a different way that I have been analyzing the text, and I that I do throughout this whole thing is that this is just one kind of particular way that I analyze the text differently than just thinking about what it's going to mean for the story, and I say I analyze the text by thinking about Winchester, or about what Winchester is saying, um, as he goes into detail about something, or as he talks about something, about what he's trying to convey in saying that. So um, right away I say, why is Lambeth so special, and why does Winchester go into so much detail about it? As I am just kind of like asking myself, like, why do I think that Winchester went into so much detail? So then I'm saying, so this is where I'm saying, like, I go into so much detail about, this is where I'm just basically detailing what I just said, where I just go into so much detail about it, like, right away, and I don't really, or I analyze why Winchester goes into so much detail about it right away, which is kind of like a certain way that I like to analyze the text. So that's something I've learned about myself, is that I like to analyze the text through that, and I think that relates a lot to Brian, as I am kind of like I tried to think about what Winchester is intending when he writes, because as Brian suggests, all texts. I mean, he specifically refers to poems, but all texts are everything written. It has like an intended purpose, and it like an intended goal that is set out by the writer. Um, so I kind of try to figure out what that is, even in like the small cases, not really looking at the whole book as a whole. Um, so then, um, so then at this point, I also pointed out that I almost overanalyzed this at this point. This is number 5. I see a picture and I say I'm surprised there is. I wrote down this whole thing and then it's right here. So I say I'm surprised there's. Let me try to get it close up. There you go. Okay, so I say I'm surprised there's a picture right away. It seems kind of weird that there's a picture right away in like such like a thick book. And I just asked myself if there are going to be pictures later on. And I think I kind of overanalyzed that because I didn't need to point that out. I didn't need to, go into so much detail about that. It's not really a point to it. So I kind of realized that I almost overanalyzed there, and I kind of looked too deep into it right early in the book. And that's unfortunate because, as you'll see later, I kind of tend to peter out in my analysis of what Winchester is saying later on as the book goes on. So I think I'm just kind of inconsistent. That's definitely one of my major learning points here is, and definitely like something critical I learned about myself is that I kind of analyze inconsistently at a lot of points, and so it's just kind of it's I have to get a balance to it. So then next, I just I showed here that it just shows that I'm constantly thinking about thinking about predictions and what could happen in the future. This is another example. This is number 7. So let's see, I number these just to make it a little easier. So you can see that number 7, hopefully. And so number 7, it's just talking about. I say last chapter my prediction was somewhat correct. The chapter did end with murder. So yeah, I just kind of right away noted that my prediction was correct. And that just proves that even because this wasn't even an after reading thing. This is just a note that and so that I think that says about myself for sure that I'm just constantly thinking about my predictions and predicting what's going to happen next, which, according to Nabokov, is somewhat bad because you don't want to constantly be assuming what's happening next. But it's definitely something I've noticed that I do a lot. Is I constantly think about predictions more and more now, especially in comparison to what's it called? To Long Day's Journey, where I made very little predictions and kind of got caught off guard in that regard. So then I pointed out at this point, I make this is another example of just me making a quick claim right away off of it's just a simple pattern that I saw right away. I pointed out that for number 11 here, I said maybe maybe we are experiencing a different person or narrator's point of view at this point because it just seemed a little scattered, and I kind of pointed that out, and it just really seems like it helps prove that that I just am constantly thinking about claims to make over and over again. I just really want to hammer that point home because I noticed it a lot in this. In these notes when I was going over them, which has definitely helped me go through it. And so, next I pointed out that, I immediately just like analyzed what the reader is, or what Winchester is intending as he goes through the chapter. So yeah, so I basically said so I just immediately analyzed what I noticed in the chapter, whether the author, and I just thought about whether the author intended it or not right away. And again, this is kind of like me thinking of Parian again, like trying to be truthful to what Nabokov, or to what the Winchester is trying to say here. So here, I'll show you a picture of it now. Um, so that would be the first one up top there, I think. Yeah, so I just immediately analyzed what I thought that Winchester was saying there, even just based on like the very beginning of the chapter. So I think that proves that I'm constantly thinking of that. So then, and at this point, I noticed I was kind of like looking through my analysis more and more, like just through my notes in general, and I noticed that at this point I'm already starting to get a little bit sloppy on my analysis. So for example, here all I say is the author goes into great detail about the island of Ceylon, which is now known as Sri Lanka. And I just kind of pointed that out. I didn't really say anything about it. I haven't really been super in depth about anything. Another example I said was let me see. Yeah, I basically just like kind of end up like asking a lot of questions rather than going through and analyzing what I think. For example, I say, why is Winchester introducing Mary, this new character, and and why has he stopped talking about minor for this one example? So I've kind of just like fallen out a little bit of the analysis, which is something that I definitely should keep in mind because, as Nabokov states, you have to really be consistent with your analysis and just get to in order to get a full grasp of the whole story. So I just kind of pointed out that I've been slipping more and more, as I stated. Let me just show you where I stated that. Yeah, so that'll just be by number 4 there. So yeah, up here. And I just kind of point out that I'm already starting to get inconsistent with my analysis, which is unfortunate. So that's definitely something that a key thing that I've noticed about myself and something that I need to improve upon as I continue. So then for the final one, for this part, I just noticed that I thought of a pattern right away. Is for these my number 11 and 12 here that I'll show you in a second. About how Winchester constantly compares Minor and Murray, and like it kind of like relates to something that I think is a theme in for the Professor and the Madman, which is kind of like a comparison of two things that are very different, and so like he or like a comparison of two things that are different but also very similar, and as well as like dealing with madness, which is like something that Minor has to deal with. So I say Winchester constantly compares Minor and Murray's lives and childhoods, which seem to be very similar, which is strange considering Minor is like essentially like a madman, and he later like castrates himself, and like he's just like they're just such different people but with very different families, which I think is the connection that that Winchester is making here. So yeah, so I pointed that out, and yeah, so I would just like to say that then my next point is I analyzed right off the bat here, and I kind of like start the chapters right away with a big analysis. As I pointed out here, I say I started off right away for number the very top one, number 13, I start off right away analyzing really well and really strongly. But then I also point out that later on in the chapter, I kind of like slip on my analysis more and more, as suggested by my notes. Uh, as I just kind of fall into summary, which is another thing that I noticed that I was constantly thinking about because, as Nabokov points out, that there's you need to get fondle details before you summarize because that's the way to best understand like what the author is intending for you to get out of the text, and then you can summarize to get the bigger picture. And I think that I summarize too early as I kind of go on in the book and I get lazier and lazier. So that's definitely something I have to work on. So that's just another part of my key point there. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I enjoyed Professor and the Madman. I thought it was pretty interesting. And yeah, I also just wanted to point out one theme that I noticed. I think is that is kind of like the handling of madness and what like madness really is and how it can like relate to your life because like for example Miner kind of like he had great work and he was even invited to the with all the writers of the Oxford English Dictionary to the royal palace or for a party by the Queen, and he even though he's essentially a madman, and it's just kind of like relating to the theme that I'm pointing out is that despite like the handling of madness, because sometimes you can handle madness without it affecting your work, it'll just affect things outside of work. So now I'm just going to show you my pages just for some like proof because I want to make sure that I show you like that I have done the work. So I don't know, the lighting's really bad now, but alright, so here's my first page. Ugh. Another page, then there's my analysis of my thoughts, then this one, then my analysis, and then this page of notes. I don't know, I hope that's close enough, but there you go. So yeah. So and then I also just numbered my notes very easily so I can just, when I'm analyzing, I can just go back to them. And then here's my final page. And then my analyses are also, on the opposite page that I've, gone through with you for the most part. So, yeah. So, thank you for watching. Sorry this is long, extra long, but, yeah, I will see you tomorrow, I guess.